We are on page Kuvov, pardon me. It's about 8 lines in the beginning of the section. I didn't count it, but that's what it seems to me. That this is, the line starts with the word ruck betuv hadover. We are focused, this is the ultimate goal, in identifying the mochin as they are in briah. The difficulty with that, to begin with, is that briah is a world, it's a creation, which means it is outside of the divine source. On the other hand, this is mochin, and the principle of mochin is that it is representative, and the force behind it is the essence. In contrast to midos, which becomes an entity unto itself. So we're saying that in mochin itself there are two madrigas. There is what's called mochin that are focused on the etzem hadover, and then there is mochin that are focused to comprehend and recognize that which is shaykh al hamidah. Essentially, that's what's called chitzonius hamochin. And to demonstrate and to get us focused on this, the Rebbe points out that there is mochin that come in levushei hasoga. We discussed briefly this term levushei hasoga. Mochin that are presented through a path of understanding rather than getting straight to the reality itself. Levushei hasoga, means of understanding. How do you approach this? What's a levushei hasoga? To put this in perspective, the special inyan in this, the anomaly of it. Mochin starts from chokhmah. Chokhmah is compared, or actually it's maybe the source of re'i, or sight, in contrast to any other faculties. Sight is a direct connect to the reality itself that you see. You don't see it via any kind of experience, like touch, or any other means of identifying anything. Sight is a direct connect to the reality itself. You open your eyes and it's there. You don't have to go there. You don't have to get to it anything. This is mochin. Nonetheless, even in mochin there is what's called the vushe hasog. As for example, in sight, even though you were seeing the reality itself directly, still there is the element in sight that you see an object in contrast to the area around the object. You really see the object directly, but at the same time you identify it in contrast to that which is not the object. In mochin this is called the vushe hasog, means of identification. Eleki, he took as a focus his boinunus in AYIN eleki, to reflect and focus in AYIN eleki. Now AYIN eleki is an omnipresence. Everyone knows what omnipresence means?
Press 1.
Omnipresence means there is not present and non-present. Its presence is not even identified by presence. It is what creates all the other presences. This is the basis of all presences. So when one is misboinen in AYIN eleki, in seichel, in mochin, he focuses in what's called the vushe hasog. Means by which you approach and recognize this reality, this presence. Yesterday we spoke quite extensively about light, the oishin v'mirishin. The oishin v'mirishin in contrast to the oil that we have now, which is also approximating oishin v'mirishin, but it comes from the sun. And what's the difference if it comes from the sun or it is without the sun? So we pointed out, with the sun, it comes to levushe hasog. It gives you a worldly means by which you can recognize, you can identify with its presence. Even though in reality its presence is not limited to a worldly presence. It's still a light that encompasses the entire reality. Still, it came to levushe hasog. So when we are explaining something with vushe hasog, so the Rebbe says that the phenomenon of the vushe hasog is that on the one hand, this is a hisvon bonus aleki. You recognize the elokus in it. You don't know it by proof. You know it directly by the Likus, the reality itself, the truth. And therefore you know the Etzem Adova Sichli, not Rab B'Toiv Adova. This is where we have to Halak B'Toiv Adova. Not just the Toiv Adova, the benefit that this thing brings. But you recognize the truth of the Likus. And you know it because of the truth of the Likus, not because of its effect on the world. Let me again put it to Lusha Hasogov a little bit. The Rebbe created the world, and as a result, and through his creating the world, his presence is known. In the world, if something affects, if you do something, you have a personal reason why you do it. Some kind of a gain, some kind of a benefit, what you're looking for. Rebbe created the world because he wanted to create the world. There is no reciprocal. Reciprocal means a deflective benefit that the Rebbe gets from creating the world. He wanted that there be a world, so there is a world. The world, therefore, even though it's a creation, is reflective completely on a godly reality. It's there because it's there. So it's a ineleki, and yet, when one is misboinen in the presence of the world, and the godly element in the presence of the world, that's what the Rabbi is saying. Mikol mochin, okay, this we discussed yesterday. A little bit into the line. Harei ze mikol mochin b'kirav el amidos.
Line starts ruck, quarter down.
Ruck. Even though it is not only B'tuv Hadov, you are misboinen in the sichli, in the eleki element. Again, in other words, sichli, and we have identified sichli means that which comes to sight. In other words, that which is a direct emanation. It's not Rabbi, but Hareze Mikol Mokoi. Nonetheless, it is still Bikir of Amidas, it's close to the Midas. Why is it Bikir of Amidas? Because it came Bilvushe Hasoga. So we discussed this yesterday. Even though it's a direct knowledge, but there is an explanation how come it's there. How come I know it? Like we said, the difference between Oish and Yivr B'Yemerishin prior to the sun and after the sun. Even though it's the same effect, the same kind of light. Still, there is Havusha Hasoga, there's a means by which we can relate to its presence. And that's why it does not conflict with world. We discussed this yesterday. All right. As in the case when one is misboinen eleki, he's misboinen in a godly element, but he's misboinen his slapshus lebushi hasoga, including lebushi hasoga, means by which one identifies with it. What made me think of it? Then Harehu, at that point, Harehu toifes rag b'chitzenes hu ineliki. He then is toifes. Toifes means he relates only b'chitzenes hu ineliki, in the chitzenes hu ineliki. Hashayach al ha'elames v'nivroi. He relates to the ineliki in the chitzonis of ineliki. What is the chitzonis of ineliki? That ineliki which is shaykh, which pertains to world and creations. If I say something and it eludes you, please ask it. Elokus per se, we cannot begin to be mizboin on Elokus. Elokus has no beginning, has no cause, has no purpose. It's not, completely evades all the parameters of worldly awareness. Like I said, the Rebbe created the world because he wanted to create a world. And it's reflective of the godly truth in the world. If one is misbein and he gets to Levush Asod, then his safe is only the Chitzonis of Iniliki. What is the Chitzonis of Iniliki? Chitzonis of Iniliki is that which can be fit with worldliness. That aspect of Alakus that pertains, that shayach, that can relate to world and Nivron. The godly presence in the world, even though it is godly, and it's infinitely superior to the world, nonetheless, there is the effect of the godly presence in the world upon the world. To demonstrate this, the world is a godly creation. The world we know the world, everything in the world is a precarious existence. Everything in the world can be and not be. And yet, as we perceive the world, we cannot even imagine that there should not be a world. In other words, there's a fundamental reality in the world that we can't go beyond it. We can't even imagine otherwise. This is the godly effect on the world. The world, from a godly perspective, the Rebbe should put into the world, eliminating so complete its precariousness, eliminating completely its shaky presence. He created the world and set rules in the world in a manner that they do not change. The sun rises daily exactly where it's supposed to rise without any change. Mind you, it's a worldly phenomenon. And yet its precision is unbelievable. It's a godlike precision. And everything else in like manner. Even though it's a world, but it clearly represents the effect of its creator. So this is the Ian Holeki, but Shayach al Ho'elam Asanivroim. It's in Holeki, how the Holeki affects world and affects creatures. How do we see Elokus in the world? Look at this. don't change. Every week every day there is the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, and the end of the day. And it's in precise order and precise measure. A day, the size of the duration of a day can be measured in milliseconds, not in seconds, milliseconds.
But the point here is that the predictability of the world points to something outside the world.
Points something greater than the world. If it happens with worldly parameters, there would be some kind of, like in the world, if something is moving, there's always a friction. There's always the effect of the environment. Nothing is exact. If it's exact, then it's a super world. This is a divine promise, vow. All the 4 seasons and the 5 seasons and the day and night and so forth. Lo yishbeisu, it will never cease, it will never be altered, not for a moment. And this is a divine presence. But this is the divine presence as it is recognized within world. This is what's called from a worldly perspective. Hashayach Elohim, the Lakus Hashayach Elohim. And Lakus Hashayach Elohim is this chitzonis of Lakus. Hashayach Elohim means a Lakus that can be identified from a worldly view. And this is Hitzoinius of Holocaust. Okay, shall we go further a little bit? Okay. And therefore refers to the fact that since that we are there, recognizing godliness, but only the chitzoinius of Inyan, only if it's a fact, how Elokis is reflected, is effective on the world. Therefore, Nigash Bozem is sensed in there. HaToiv de Elokis, the goodness of Elokis. What is he referring to? In contrast to what we said before, even though he's mizbein on Elokus per se, he wants to get a sense of what Elokus is. But since it is within worldly parameters, it's inevitable that it should surface in a form that you say, oh, how wonderful and great this is. I want to say one more line. The goodness of Elokus. What is the goodness of Elokus referred to? Not the favors that God does. The goodness of Elokus per se. The fact that when we go to sleep, and we know that when we wake up, the world is going to be refreshed, it's going to be here. There's no doubt about it. What assures us of that? Is it the world? No, it is the godly premise, covenant with the world. This goodness, that it is totally reliable, and it is totally 100% dedicated. I say the world exists because God wants it to exist, period. The world can go astray and make all kinds of errors and mistakes, and the world will still have a chance to retract and to recoup. No such thing as the world can no longer can be, so to speak, resuscitated. So inevitably, when one is misborn and one reflects in this godly presence, he will sense the toiv Elokus, the goodness of Elokus, the wonderful phenomenon, the fact that we have the Elokus in our world. Bebchinas hergesh atzmi. That's the next step. But it's inevitable that in this his bonus who he sends hatoiv Elokus. Even though he is focused on understanding Elokus per se, not the goodness, not the resultant benefit of Elokus. But it's inevitable that that should surface because his whole understanding is Belvush Yasoga. Because he relates to Elokus as it is manifest in the world. Therefore, it's inevitable that he will sense the toiv, which is the midah element, the midas element of the Elokus, rather than the mochin element of Elokus. Mochin element of Elokus is Yisholei B'Yarach Tadat. And then, the next step, this nigesh b'zeh hatoiv Elokus. This is going to be pointing out that this is even more worldly than we have identified so far. So we've identified that this is that the world it manifests and displays and attests to the presence of Elokus because of the quality of the world. But there's more than that. He is margesh the toiv Elokus b'chinas hergesh atzmi. Hergesh atzmi means a personal hergesh. This is even a lower level. Mochin, you see the truth per se. Here he is margesh the toiv Elokus, and margesh toiv Elokus b'chinas hergesh on a personal level. I'm happy that I have it. How wonderful it is for me that I have it. How does that affect me? This is the Hergesh Toiv Elokus, B'chinas Hergesh Atzmi. Eich, and that is the conclusion. Eich, he is margesh, the phenomenon, how it is Shakivas Elokiv Militoiv. What does he ultimately understand, recognize in the Elokus, which is Misbein in Elokus? Not the Elokus per se, not even that the Elokus is good, but that is good for me. It becomes a personal interest. Personal interest is no longer mochin. Mochin is to know the objective truth. It becomes a personal interest. It's inevitable that it should turn out to that level becomes a personal interest. Why is that? V'hainu, and that is the reason that it turns out to that level, mipnei shehatfiso hi, because the whole effect and the whole relating recognition is b'madregas Elokus. In that madregas Elokus, b'chinas kirva l'nivroi. Because the whole tfisa, the whole what he's relating to is that madregas Elokus, which is bekirban and which is closer to the creations. Elokus as it manifests in the world, which is the chitzonis of Elokus, not the Elokus as the truth of Elokus it's per se. Therefore, it's inevitable that this hisbonenus will end up on the lowest level of hisbonenus, a personal interest, the personal nature, where the mochin element per se, the pure mochin element, seems to be some kind of camouflage. It's lost, and instead, what you are focused in, what you recognize is how it is, how personally beneficial this is, how you benefit from it, how that affects your life. This is not the original intent of mochin, but because the only way the only approach in this to understand the Elokus is through levushi hasoga. This is the limit. This is inevitable that this is how it's going to end up.